Okay, today I'm in Somerset with a couple that regular race goers, at least in the West Country, will definitely know, Jane and Dave Hazell. Thanks very much for inviting me to your lovely house to talk to you today, both. Dave, congratulations, recently retired from your proper job.
Thank you.
Now, Dave and Jane Hazell, family bookmakers. How long have you been in the betting ring as a couple?
Probably as a couple, we started 1998. I'm saying that, but we also did. We used to bet off the old ESL list. And certainly we'd done a few derbies before that as a couple. And I used to go with a friend off of the old ESL list, but not as a couple. So I would say 1998 when the buying and selling of pitches came in.
Okay, now, when did you both get married?
1991.
That's
Right,
a
so
very difficult question, Simon.
I noticed Jane answered it, not you, Dave. So were you both interested in racing before you got together? Obviously, I assume you were, Dave. But Jane, was it a new thing to you, or were you interested?
No, it wasn't new to me. My dad loved his racing, and he worked for Mike Brady in his betting shop in Whitehall in Bristol. So I was quite used to watching Saturday afternoon racing on the television, and I knew a lot about prices. Not pricing, but prices. I think Dave thought he'd died and gone to heaven when he met me.
Well, he did, didn't he? So, Dave, you're a plumber by trade.
Yeah.
So when did the bookmaking start for you?
So I used to do a bit of clerking for Steve Bell, God rest his soul, and that sort of got me. As a kid, I did a lot of show jumping, and I used to go to Nedge, which was the old point-to-point track. I'd ridden around there, and then I got involved because I was quick with the mental arithmetic, and then I started helping Steve with some of the. I used to clerk for Steve Bell.
Yeah. So so how old would you have been when you started doing that with Steve? Because I remember Steve on course. His dad was there before him, wasn't he?
Reg helped
Bell,
us.
yeah.
Yeah, when we first got our licence, in all fairness, Reg did help us. He gave us a tripod and a bag. I would have been in my 20s, definitely, when I started actually on course.
So were you doing that sort of weekends and stuff?
Yes, it was an enjoyment, but you mentioned I'm a plumber. I was a plumber. I mean, I used to do a lot of plumbing, and so I would sort of dart away or do what I could when I could, but predominantly it was later.
Okay, Jane, do you remember the first time you actually worked on course? Was it with Dave or somebody else?
No, it was with Dave, and it was a derby, I believe, wasn't it?
A baptism of fire, no?
I can't think. We were on the hill.
No, we weren't
No?
arguing already. We were on Tattenham Corner.
Oh, Tattenham Corner, we were. Tattenham Corner, yes. I do remember. Dave could tell you a story about that, actually. Couldn't he?
This is what we're here for, Dave.
Okay, yeah, all right. So we were determined to try and lay a bet and try and be and be very honest with people. When you bet on Tattenham Corner, it was up by the train station, and they would wander in past the train station from sort of 10 o'clock onwards. They'd walk past you. Quite often they would place their bets and then carry on into Tats or into the middle. Anyway, so we were laying our bets, blah, 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 lovely jubbly. It was a nice day, a pleasant day. We got to the Derby result. I can't remember anyway, we had a bet in there, a payout of 1,800 quid. It was wild. They were all drinking and jumping up and down behind us in the car park. So I'd told all the staff, whatever happens, you're polite, courteous, and we're honest. And we try and lay the bet, okay? So we paid out on the Derby. This bet hasn't been picked up. And it was in the days when you had your name on the card. It wasn't a printout, it was just a ticket. So the next race comes, and this bet still hasn't been picked up. We must be now, the next race comes, and they're telling me ticket 1, 2, 3 hasn't been picked up and is 1,800 quid. Well, if I'm honest, I'm getting a bit excited now. So that is, and this is lots and lots of years ago. So anyway, with that, you hear the biggest crash, that as if two cars have had a smash. So we've looked behind us. There's kids dancing on a minibus, and somebody has fallen off, crashed into the car next door. So you've got the ambulances there, etc., etc. Take him away. We've now packed up and we're ready to go, and we're just sort of getting into the car, and this bloke walks up and he said, "I found a ticket my mate, I got a ticket. Could you just have a look and see if there's anything on it? So she said, oh, that's 118. You got 1,800. So I looked at her in disgust. She looked at me and said, you said we got to be honest.
And of course you would have been.
Of course.
Now, one of my previous interviewees, well-known bookmaker from around these parts, Andy Smith, mentioned you in his interview. That must have been a bit of an unorthodox learning experience for you. When he said the biggest mistake bookmakers make is turning up with money.
Yeah, we would go racing with Andrew with nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing. And I'm sure Andrew wouldn't mind me saying, everybody knew me on the racetrack as plumber. I used to turn up to Andrew's on a Saturday morning. Jane would be sat home with the kids, and we would be skint then as well because we had a mortgage and 2 children. I'd turn up at Andrew's at I can't think, where was he live? Burnham Barrow Gurney. I'd turn up at Andrew's, walk into the kitchen, and his opening sentence would be, plumber, how much can you get out of the hole in the wall? So we would then make our way to Lloyd's Bank at Bishopsworth and see what I could get out, and then go off to the races. I remember going to Wincanton on I'm sure it was a bank holiday Monday, and we never had enough money to take the badge out, so we had to set up quickly and take some bets so as we could go and take the badge out. And then he had a winning day, and everything was good. He was very good, and as much as people say things about Andrew, he did help us a lot when we started with pitches, with support. Andrew, I don't see much of him, and he probably now only phones up if he wants something. But over the years, Andrew's been all right to me without a doubt.
Okay, now Jane, you mentioned that memorable time you went racing for the first time with Dave at Tatton Corner. Mm-hmm. So when did you really get involved with the business?
When buying and selling came in, we used to do it together then, as we do now. And that's when I got involved more, wasn't it? We were very fortunate that my mum could look after our children for us when we went racing, and we were able to do it weekends, evenings, and bank holidays and festivals.
Okay, now in recent years, there's been a lot more ladies. There used to be a few maybe Clarking in the old days, but a lot more ladies actually on the pitches now, which was pretty much unheard of back when I started. It was always like a very male-dominated sort of thing. How's it been for you? How have you found it?
It's been difficult. A lot of people, gentlemen in particular, didn't accept women standing on the front of the joint and taking the bets. Over time, it's been more accepted. The ladies like it. They do come up and say, "I'm betting with you because of you're a lady, and we want to bet with you." But we've got punters now that come up to us, and men, and they just take it for granted now. There still aren't many. It's still quite hard sometimes. There aren't many women on the front anymore, but it's accepted more now.
But you go out on your own without Dave, don't
Yeah.
you? And when did you actually first start to stand up on the pitch and take the bets?
Probably I was doing the computer for ages, wasn't I? Probably in about the last 10 years. Yeah, about the last 10 years I've been standing on the front taking the bets.
So did you find that it was the punters that found it harder to accept, or the bookmakers as well?
Both definitely. Male bookmakers didn't like it, obviously, because I'm a female in a male, they just didn't like it at all.
And do you think the punters treat you any differently? If there's a dispute or anything, they're less likely to be in your face?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. They're just as aggressive to me as they are to a gentleman bookmaker.
Okay, now you've said that you started properly when buying and selling came in, so 1998. It doesn't seem that long ago, sadly, does it? But it's actually 25 years now, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how much has it changed as far as people's attitudes to ladies? Have it sort of gone?
Like I said, it's much more acceptable now, and I don't get the comments, "Oh, unusual to see a lady stood on the front." They just do accept it, definitely, now that I'm stood there. And we've got a regular punters now as well, and they quite like a lady being on the front. Some men come up and say, the same as the ladies do, "I'll just bet with you because you're a lady, lucky lady."
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So obviously, we know already you're a married couple. How easy is it to... Because, I've seen bookmaking's driven people literally mad. They're all crazy by the time they're sort of retirement age. So how have you worked in such a highly charged business and kept sane together? Because you're together and you can't just leave and...
It is teamwork, definitely.
It is. I would say, honestly, Si, we bicker more at home possibly than we do on the racetrack, and it is only bicker. We very rarely, we would have more of a dispute over the pick of where we're going to bet than probably a dispute over laying a bet. If we've laid a bet that possibly we shouldn't have laid a bet, then we will look at each other and that's it. It's gone, and you can't turn the clock back, and we'll do it. So yeah, I don't really think that we don't have long silences coming home or anything like that.
Don't ruin my next question, Dave.
I do apologise. Go on, because I'd be interested.
No,
in
but
it.
I mean, I'm interested in that because does it work being teamwork when it comes to accepting a bet? Has there not got to be a boss that says, yes, we're taking that bet? You can't have a row in front of the punter.
Do you want me to go, or
I don't mind, you carry on.
we do always try and lay what they ask? I'm not saying we stand it, Simon, because we will hedge it with other bookmakers, and obviously, as you're aware, we've got the machine. You like stories, so we've gone to Goodwood, and we're betting around in the owners and trainers. We've sat in the owners and trainers. We've got the two kids there, and we're having a drink. And I think his name, Michael Watson, the boxer, came in, not physically strong or anything, and he had his hand bandaged. And Gavin looked at him, and I said, Gav, you wouldn't realise how brave that guy was. I said, it is absolutely amazing, the fights that they had, etc., etc. I said, come on. And we walked over, and he had a lady with him, and I explained, and they were ever so friendly. They were lovely. Anyway, we started betting, and she came down, his carer came down, and she said, oh, Michael said how nice you were to him. Can he bet his horse with you in this race? Now, in those days, as Jane said, I was on the front, and Jane was on the computer. So she said, I'll have £250 each way. I was expecting her to have a tenner each way. She said, Michael would like £250 each way, horse 14. We've got a queue, we're busy, we're trying to rush him in and take as much money as we can. I said to Jane, £250 each way, number 14. She went, Dave. I said, Jane, £250 each way, number 14, please. So she said, so she's now giving me the elbow. Dave, and I'm sort of looking around, Dave. I said, do the ticket. So she's done the ticket. I've given it to the lady. It's 66 to 1. We got a queue. Anyway, she's walking away. So I've jumped off the stool, caught up. I said, excuse me. I said, I am sorry. I said, we've laid you a bet. No problem. I said, but I might not have enough cash to pay you out. If it wins, would Michael take a cheque? So she said, no, Michael would want cash. Now, that was one of those days. Anyway, I darted into Tats and could get very, very little. All these big-time bookies, well, I did manage to get, what did I get? Somebody
£25 each way.
£15 each way.
Oh, 15.
And then Corbett's did lay me some. But that ruined our day, really. And the horse wasn't sighted. It was not even mentioned. But us standing horses for money like that made us, feel sick. But there we are, yeah. So, but we didn't bicker about it. We die with our boots on. Is that right?
Yep, definitely.
So can you leave it on the racecourse? So you've had a particularly bad day. You come home. Is it forgotten about?
Yeah. We talk about it. We never argue about it. We talk about it. And like Dave said, we argue more about where we're going to stand on the racecourse rather than whether we win or lose. But yeah, we do leave it on the racecourse.